Matt Schlapp, House Political Director to President George W. Bush and Chairman of the American Conservative Union. Julie Berginski is Democratic strategist and a Fox News contributor. Thanks to you both for being here. Matt, let me start with you.
Sure.
Address Charles Krauthammer's point. Was it an overreach?
I agree with part of what Charles said and not the other part. I do think that we need to make sure that we have more sufficient vetting. But I think Charles is wrong when he says this was an overreach, because all this simply is giving a timeout so that we can actually come up with a process so that we can know when someone comes here, it doesn't undermine our security. If you don't do the timeout to actually look at what your policies are and come up with a system, you can't really assure the American people that a terrorist can't slip through. So I think it's the right policy. I do agree there was some chaos in how it was implemented, and I do agree with Charles's comments on that.
Okay, so Laura Ingraham addressed that very specific point about the rollout. Let's listen to what she said. Julie, you can respond on the other side.
You can question the rollout. I certainly have. You can question the merits of it. That's fine. But as to this legal issue that we're seeing right now, this is a dangerous place. If the executive branch does not preserve its separation of powers from the judiciary and have that ability to make these calls, then we're going to have a lot of, Monday morning quarterbacks.
So, Julie, what about that? The rollout was messy, maybe, and not done the way it should have been, but the underlying law, the 1952 Immigration Code, is still valid. What do you think?
Well, several points on that. She's right. It was messy. I remember not too long ago when Republicans were rejoicing when Obama's executive order on immigration was overturned by a court of appeals, and so obviously for some reason that has shifted in terms of what the executive can do with conservatives now that the shoe's in the other foot. I will say this: look, you have countries that are prevent people from countries that are from coming here, despite the fact that we have never had a terrorist attack on our soil with people coming from any of these countries.
Well, I have to actually correct you on that point because, hang on, AP fact check came out and said, I mean, you look at the Somali refugee at Ohio State, that was somebody that would have been stopped by this. They named another one. If you look at it, yes, it would have. The Iraqi refugee, AP fact checked that. There was a Somali refugee who would have been stopped. Instead, he was that knife-wielding man at Ohio State. You also had the Iraqi refugee.
But Melissa,
in Texas,
what you're talking about here is the vast majority. Let's talk about 9/11, the biggest terror attack in our nation, right? Most of those people came from Egypt and Saudi Arabia. The mastermind of that was living was originally from Saudi Arabia.
Stopping those other attacks?
It's not that it's not worth stopping those other attacks. The question to me is, are you going to start banning people from all over the world now? Are you going to eventually essentially have a Muslim ban?
Are we going to start vetting more carefully?
We have vetted everybody as carefully as we can.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Julie, I guess I would say the following, which is before 9/11, we lived in a different world, and post 9/11, we realized the enemy is constantly finding new ways to use our freedoms against us. It's okay for us to be looking at intelligence to know what could happen. Second of all, there are all kinds of Americans who are talking to people online, mullahs and others, in these T7, these terrorist countries, and they get self-radicalized. They get radicalized with their help. Traveling to those countries, even if it's just for a visit, can have a very negative effect on our security. And so I think when we look at the threats that we face going forward, the American people, they want us to be true to our freedoms and to our Constitution for sure. But this judge basically is not reading the plain letter understanding of the law, and what he's doing is inserting himself in a political context.
Let me go back to the question, and it's what Matt's saying. When President Trump came out this morning, the first thing he did was that 1952 Immigration Code, saying that the president has the right to bar the entry of any aliens or class of aliens into the United States who would be detrimental to the interest of the United States, that he can preclude those people from coming in.
I am not a lawyer, and I suspect the Supreme Court will take that up. Obviously, courts have ruled against the president on this issue, so we'll continue to see whether they do or they don't. And certainly we have a Court of Appeals coming down right now in the Ninth Circuit. You'll also have a Supreme Court decision, I suspect. But to the actual policy itself, let's be very clear about what we're trying to accomplish here. The danger, the vast danger, in terms of Islamic terrorism, as Republicans like to call it, that has come here has been by self-radicalized American citizens. They have gone to Yemen. They have gone to other countries. They have come back here. Sometimes they've done it online.
That's right.
You look at and so what are you going to start doing now? Are you essentially going to say that this travel ban extends to anybody who's gone abroad anywhere,
Julie,
who's an American citizen?
If some American is going to visit a mullah who is advocating for jihad in the United States, I'd like to curtail that travel. Can you agree with me on that?
Matt,
Can you agree with me on that?
I will, but you have to concede that this travel ban does not do that, does it?
You're wrong. This is a timeout to come up with our policies.
What
timeout?
Matt, if you as an American citizen go to, I don't know, let's say France, let's go to a part of Belgium where these people get radicalized and speak to somebody and you get radicalized over there and you come back here, this travel ban does nothing to prevent you from doing that, and you know it.
Julie, we need to have travel and immigration policies that don't undermine our security. Don't curtail the president from keeping us safe.
What he's doing right now does not address my issue, though, does it, Matt?
Thanks to both of you. We got to go. Thanks.